are we making the candidates not use AI in the interview process when every day that they'll be at the company, we want them to?
How are you going to transform yourselves? Are you going to stick to the old technology, old way of doing things, or you're open-minded enough or curious enough to actually pick up what's coming new? And that's a differentiator.
I have a levels framework, level 1 through level 10. It's an advancement through agentic engineering. But most people are somewhere between like level 1 and level 3. Moving up is about building your engineering environment as a system architecture itself.
Right. We are still here to give AI direction. AI can't find problems. You have to give AI a problem with a really good direction. It can do a really good job in solving that problem for you. But who's going to find those problems is still going to be humans.
If every company in the United States let go of 30% of their workforce, we're looking at like massive unemployment. How are you coaching the people that you're retraining, making them more prepared for the job market we're in? How are you doing that?
And one thing I always tell people,
AI Marketing Podcast.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the AI Marketing Podcast. Today I'm with Naz Delam, and I'm very excited to have her here with me. Naz, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. Naz, you've been at Netflix, you've been at LinkedIn, you've been at Salesforce. You've been the tip of the spear helping the companies adopt AI and leading their agentic AI transformation. So really excited to talk to you about that and unpack that with you. One interesting tension, I think, like we're seeing, and I know obviously everything in the Bay Area right now is about agents and AI adoption, and hard to walk 10 feet without seeing another billboard or a bus driving by pushing some AI agentic technology. And it's happened really fast, right? Last 6 months have been absolutely insane.
Right.
What's that felt like for you here?
Especially the market, right? It's changing rapidly. You can see AI everywhere. If you ask anybody here, it's like AI. Even in companies who are not doing tech, it's all about AI now. How do you bring AI native, AIify everything? And a lot of people feel behind. A lot of people are stressed. And we are in the middle of a really large transformation.
Yeah, for sure. Huge. Is that transformation, do you think, is it about empowerment or is it about elimination?
Great question. My perspective is empowerment. I actually see AI in a very positive way. And we do see that in a lot of research studies. Like, for example, the recent one done by Harvard Business Review or Stanford AI research study. We see that in a lot of research, it's all about up-leveling folks who are in the middle. Not too expert, but not beginners, but the mid-level workers, they actually get more empowered to act like experts leveraging AI. So I see that as empowering folks to be at that expert level, not elimination.
Okay. But not everyone can make the cut, right? Like there's the mid-level, there's the top level, there's the bottom level. And one of the things I've observed is there are people who are really good at their jobs, at least they were a year ago.
Right.
But they can't make the transformation. They've had a hard time learning how to use the tools that are now available.
Right.
And so the gap between them and their colleagues, maybe who are less expert level or not as good communicators, their colleagues who are better at the agentic adoption have been able to eclipse them. And so, probably seeing that tension at organizations like that you've been at, how have you seen that play out?
Yeah. It's a wave, right? It's like when the internet came over, or when the horses were replaced with cars, right? When Ford came with the first actual car. And even with those transformations, we do see like a lot of people were taking care of horses, they became mechanics. And they found new roles. So how are you going to transform yourselves? Are you going to stick to the old technology, old way of doing things? Or you're open-minded enough or curious enough to actually pick up what's coming new? And that's a differentiator. And that's what actually defines people's success in this transformation, that are you able to actually transform your knowledge and a skill set? And it's going to happen during our age multiple times. I mean, as a millennial, I have seen this twice now. I've been through the internet hype, and now I'm through the AI hype. And we can see these hypes coming and going in our lifetimes multiple times.
Now, when you see people who push through versus the ones that don't, like what are the characteristics? I think one of the challenges also is people at the top of the organization are often the least likely to
Yeah.
want to reinvent themselves. And I think this is very much about reinvention. It's about reapproaching the way you think about the way you do work.
Right.
And oftentimes on my team, I have like an Agentic engineering field manual that I give every single person at the company. Everyone's required to install certain Agentic engineering repos, even non-technical people, because the technical interface is the Agentic interface.
Right.
And we try to get everyone into the terminal.
Right.
A lot of people are resistant to that, and they would rather use a UI than to use like an Agentic terminal. But for us, it's like essential. We don't want to be as an organization fall behind in terms of our potential productivity and our ability to bring new products to market. So how are you coaching the people that because I know you work with a lot of folks in the Bay Area
Yeah.
on retraining, re-education, re-evolution, making them more prepared for the job market we're in. How are you doing that?
It's about mindset. Even before AI, this was something that I was coaching, this mindset I was coaching engineer, and something I adopted as an engineer, is that you're going to have to constantly pick up new things outside the area of your knowledge, right? So there are the things that we know, and we are comfortable with that, and we are expert at it. So that's the first circle of knowledge. And there are the things that we know we don't know, right? That's the second circle of my area of knowledge. And there are the things that we don't know we don't even know, right? So if you stay on the first circle all the time, just operate in the zone of the knowledge that you're comfortable at, and you will never expand that circle to the second circle, you will get comfortable and you will get obsolete. And one thing I always tell people, engineers or regardless which field you are on, always pick something that you don't know and start learning it. For me, even before AI, I picked up quantum computing and started learning it. Did I use it at my job? Never. I joined Udacity and worked on self-driving cars to build a self-driving car. But I was a front-end engineer. Did I need that knowledge? No, never. But that will empower you to be first curious, and it will embark your journey as a lifelong learner. Any field you are in, regardless of the hype that is happening in the industry, you have to continuously learn. And that will build up a habit that you can empower yourself and tell yourself that I can learn anything. Because a lot of people are just scared when they hear AI. They're like, oh, I don't know, what is it? I don't know if I can learn it. But if I can teach yourself and prove it to yourself, you can learn anything, then you will be empowered enough to pick up AI now.
Makes sense. So you think of it as cultivating like a just being comfortable with re-education and learning as a muscle.
Yeah.
And just applying that muscle repeatedly to new problems
Yeah.
that are in the domain that you're in.
Exactly. Pick one new thing every year and learn that. One new area that is not in your domain.
And are you thinking of that as like learning a discipline of engineering maybe, or design or product management? Are you thinking of it as like a big domain of study, or something that's like very technical and deep?
It can be anything. Honestly, I've picked psychology. I picked philosophy at some years and just went deep into that. It should be something you're inspired to learn. And that motivation comes from inspiration. So if you're inspired to learn photography, go for it and learn it and, produce some outcomes. Do something with that. Build a project, showcase to your friends. And, that is also learning. Photography is hard, and you will learn how to also think out of the box, because one of those skills that you're gaining will help you later problem solve totally different problems. And you cannot imagine the help that the curiosity and learning provides.
It's interesting, isn't it, that the model used to become an expert specialist in some domain that, one, you're passionate about, but also is needed and necessary in the job market and lucrative, and go deep in that area.
Right.
And if you're the specialist and you're the best in the world at that one thing, you'll always have a job.
Right.
Now what you're really saying is take a step back from that and go wider, the aperture. Right. Is that because the path through this is that AI can go as deep as it needs to, and so we don't need to go into that level of technical rigor, because we can get there with whether it's Claude or Codex or Gemini will be able to reach those depths of technical expertise, and it's more important that we are kind of synthesizing and solving bigger business problems, or is it something else? What do you think about it?
If you think about like human knowledge graph is, some people see it as T, right? There was this notion of T-shaped engineering for a while in our industry where you build your expertise and you build an umbrella of skills. Some people see it as an M, where you have like 3 levels of expertise and a large umbrella on the top. But I actually see it as a graph. So you have nodes of knowledge, right? I have coding skills, I have, problem solving skills. I'm able to do photography. I'm a painter. So you have a graph of yourself. And the thing with AI is really good at solving per node, right? You can give AI a coding problem and it can solve for that node, but it's not yet good enough to connect across the nodes in different knowledge domains. And that will enable you as a human to actually find the problems across domains, because now you have the knowledge of multiple things. For example, bringing human interaction through psychology and philosophy to your technical skills in AI. And you can bridge the gap between these cross-domain problems. We have a lot of cross-domain problems in the technical field. It's still sitting there. We have solved almost all the one domain problems. So if you look at like our tech domain, a lot of problems are already solved.
Yeah.
But if you look through tech and genealogy and psychology, there are problems left in these 3 connected domains that is still not touched. And that will enable you to go on find those very unique problems that are cross domain.
That really resonates a lot. On my computer, I have maybe 250 code bases and multiple knowledge graphs of data from my team and our team's communication, my email, my calendar. It also connects to my daily chat, whatever I'm communicating with, to my computer. So it has this massive knowledge graph of information. And I try to do blind spot analysis and have it summarize kind of what happened today or what should I be thinking of tomorrow. And I noticed it does a very poor job with that because it's so multi-domain that it'll go and say, hey, in this code base, there's this problem that you need to really be aware of. Hey, blind spot, analyze this. But it misses the forest through the trees. It just completely doesn't understand the altitude that it needs to think. And so seeing that happen, what I found is exactly as you described, you have to almost give it a frame of how to think through the problem cross-sectionally, multidimensionally. But if you can give it multiple frames through which it's analyzing the data, it does a much better job because you've been explicit about how you want it to think through the problem.
Yeah.
You can't just kind of have it recursively, just go to your AI terminal and say, run 10 passes, analyze this deeper and deeper and deeper. What does deeper mean? Which way do you want me to analyze it? It doesn't have that context, and so it fails.
Right.
Very interesting.
Right.
And so you think that the role of the human then is to provide the lens through which to think through all those multi-dimensions of the graph and how to prioritize.
Right. We are still here to give AI direction. And just going to the beginning of our conversation, replacement versus empowerment, and that's another reason that is empowerment. Is because you are needed for AI to give AI direction to solve the right problems. AI can't find problems. At least it hasn't been proven to find problems. You have to give AI a problem with a really good direction, as you mentioned. This is the problem definition. Go solve it. It can do a really good job in solving that problem for you, hopefully. But who's going to find those problems is still going to be humans. But the skill of those humans has been changing. Because in order for you to find problems, now you have to think differently and have different skill set levels than before.
So when if you're training, let's say a PM or a mid-level engineer, what are the key skills or the key ways that you want to see them grow right now?
It's changed so much, right? How we define a valuable member of a team. I think 5 years ago it was by how many projects you deliver and outcomes that you produce. We tend to hire people who were technically super strong and know a specific tech stack. And it was so important for us to have that depth of knowledge in that tech stack.
Right.
But now AI can do that for us, right? So now what I see in the market and how people are hiring is through more of like, we don't care what tech stack you're working on because AI can code anything. It can code Python, it can code JavaScript, it can go any tech stack. But can you really drive a project? Can you find those problems? Do you have that product mindset? Do you understand the business to give that direction to the AI? And the direction comes from understanding the product, understanding our users, what they're doing with that product, and then finding those problems, giving AI direction to solve and creating that impact. And that's why we see a lot of these companies, they're getting a lot of AI tokens in, they're spending a lot of money, they're token maxing, yeah. But the revenue is not there because the direction is missing. So the AI adoption without actual transformation is few companies, a lot of companies do that, but few companies are missing that piece of transformation and impact.
So how also is the interview process shifted then?
Well, it's shifted to hire this type of people who can give direction. And how do you give direction to AI? Is that you will be thinking about your work as you're owning the work. And it's so funny because it reminds me of the way Netflix culture used to be when I used to work there. Even before the days of AI, Netflix used to have very thin teams. And when you go as an engineer there, it's like you have your mini startup. You owning a piece of feature or a large feature where you're owning it end to end. You have to go work with product managers, define your product area, define the problems, get to know your users, get on the user calls, know how we make money out of this feature, and how do we increase revenue. And you will define those problems on your own and drive that as a little startup. And now, in order for you to do that, you need to have really great communication skills, really great drive, really great art of persuasion, conflict resolution, working judgment, right? Judgment is a key. I am so happy you brought it up. Judgment is right now a key skill because that's what you're doing day in and day out, regardless of judgment around what to build, but judgment around what to accept from AI and what not to accept. So the whole market is shifting from your technical skills to 50% is, in my perspective now, is your non-technical skills. 20% is your technical depth, and then the rest 30% is your AI native skill set. Can you work with AI to build? Do you understand how Claude Code works, for example, or Codex works, and do you know tips and tricks that you can make yourself productive building with AI?
Yeah. We've completely changed the way that we approach the interview process because you know what we realized? It's just one of those things when you're building the company and you're growing, you just forget that the interview questions that we had or the way that we did a technical interview is no AI, right? Like that's how we did it up until about 6 months ago.
Right.
And I asked the team, I was like, why are we making the candidates not use AI in the interview process when every day that they'll be at the company, we want them to?
Right.
Isn't that totally out of alignment? And then also the people we were hiring, they didn't have that foundation because we were selecting for the ones that were really able to code without it. Now, I'm not saying that, I don't know. I don't know which one's necessarily objectively better, but I definitely would want someone on my team who is highly proficient in those tools.
Absolutely.
Right? And today, if you don't have that skill, you're so behind.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in the interview process for engineering, are you seeing companies make AI a mandatory part of the interview process, or are they still saying no AI?
It's a mix right now, right? You see some companies are actually adopting it in the interview process. So you can see Meta even now having it in the career profile. The moment you're submitting an application, now there's an AI evaluator evaluating your resume, even before you get into the interview. I personally like the hybrid because I believe in, you have to be able to work with AI, but you have to have enough technical knowledge to evaluate what AI is producing. And I would love to assess on both, right? An interview which doesn't have any AI tools, and we will evaluate your depth of technical knowledge. Do you understand computer architecture, design patterns? What is a good, your judgment? What is your technical judgment look like? Do you know how to do trade-offs? And we do have an interview, which we give you an AI coding assistant. And what I really want to see in that interview is not that you go and, paste the problem there. Is more of, can you define the problem well for AI? Can you break it down? Do you break it down, or do you just copy paste what you get in there? Do you really think about the problem, a scope, and ask further questions?
What's your first prompt?
Exactly.
Is it solve, or is it unpack, analyze?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then further, how do you evaluate the answer that AI generates? Mm-hmm. Are you having a test-driven approach where you first write the tests based on, product requirements and outcomes of a problem that we're looking for as human beings? And that's a human judge. Like, how do you bring in human judge to make sure the AI output is correct in the interview itself?
Interesting. How much of that is the state of their agentic engineering architecture going into the interview, because they're doing it on their computer, I assume, right? How much of that is the way they've set up their architecture prior to the interview versus them prompting mid-flight?
It is usually in these interviews you'll use like the predefined or default company, coding agent. So few people can do it on their own laptop. Unless you're interviewing for a startup which doesn't have access to these tools. But I would love to see their agentic architecture. That's actually a plus, right? It gives me the ability to see if the candidate is AI-verse and to which level they have the AI native development. Do they understand the skills? That's something that I still don't see people getting a good grasp of. Do they think about skills best practices within their team? And how do they actually think about building those skills? What type of problems? Can they compartmentalize those problems and compartmentalize and modularize their skills where later on can be, used across multiple agents? Or am I just building one skill for the sake of building skills?
Right.
And that's a level that really differentiate interviews and engineers going through interviews. Can you actually showcase to which level do you understand the skills?
Yeah. I have a levels framework, level 1 through level 10. And essentially it's an advancement through agentic engineering. Right now the field is so new, right? There's not that many people, I think, that are, proficient to the level of, let's say, Boris Chernow at, Claude, who built Claude Code. He maybe is the grandmaster, level 10. But most people are somewhere between level 1 and level 3. And level 1 would be kind of breaking out of the UI. And a lot of non-technical people are still using, some sort of a desktop UI for their agentic experiences. But, moving up is about building your engineering environment as a system architecture itself, the meta level coding before you code, so that when you give it an instruction, you're not having to build the scaffolding and the framework around. Essentially, you're building your own mini harness around how you're utilizing it to build proper code. That includes the test, that includes the spec, that includes which specific libraries to use for various sort of system engineering problems. And the shocking thing for me is that of all the people that I've interviewed for engineering roles, very, very few have had any kind of a mature approach to that, as I would have expected by now.
Right. It's new. I think we need a little bit more time in the industry so people can actually adopt the knowledge and get to that level. And this is exactly, you described the next phase of engineering, the next phase of levels. You did not say, I level people based on their coding skills. We're going to level people moving on based on how they can actually build metacoding frameworks with AI. And that will determine if you're a senior engineer or you're going to be a staff engineer, not the level of how much do you know around problem, for example, or coding languages. So this is how we're going to see the market shifting, and the definition of engineers shifting is how well you can build systematic AI within your company.
Yeah, I agree with this. We've folded all the roles into now everyone is just a product engineer. There's no such thing as product manager. There's no front end, back end. It's just everyone is a product engineer, which is really powerful, and it's freeing because the PMs, they feel empowered because they're
Right.
actually now building the product. The engineers who are just kind of comfortable being, people who are just pushing like low-level code, they, I think, were the most uncomfortable by it because it meant that they would have to no longer be able to hide behind saying, I'm just the one that builds the merge request, the PR.
Right.
Now you have to think about the client, the customer, the product experience. Why is it doing that?
Right.
And I'm not feeding you a ticket anymore, right? You're not
Right.
getting fed a ticket. You're picking up what you think is important and you're building that along with your team. And so it's very interesting. I think, I'm also curious, as you've seen companies that you've worked at and companies you're advising go through this process, I've seen very few companies keep their headcount the same. Everyone is pretty much just like shedding off pounds and like losing headcount. Even though when you think about it, those really more people just means more velocity, right? Like if we have more people on the team and they're equipped with the right foundational knowledge for how to use AI and agentic systems, why aren't we seeing companies just hire more of those agentic people? Is it that there's not enough of them out there? Why is that?
So it's a great question, and it's a paradox that we're seeing. I think there's multiple factors. One is velocity doesn't really equal impact, right? So you can increase your velocity, but the impact is still not there, right? And the revenue is still not up. And that's one of the things that we are seeing with a lot of companies that have velocity increase, but we still have so much bugs and we have more problems surfacing and our code base are just increasing size and things are going out of control. So speed without control is actually very dangerous. And that's why we need to slow down actually and think about how are we going to control all of this generated code and ensure we're not breaking things. We had this old notion of move fast but not break things. How do we apply that in the age of AI? Because yes, everyone's velocity is increasing. We are outputting way more code. We are getting more things done. But the bottlenecks has changed to other layers. Now the bottleneck is code reviews. Large amount of codes sitting at code review, and we need to get it reviewed. The bottleneck may be our release processes. The bottleneck is everywhere else in the system, but not in the coding anymore. The velocity of coding and outputting is super increased. So that's one. There are other bottlenecks exist, and velocity of coding does not really equal to velocity of delivering impact in outside form.
For sure. I'm curious there because when you mentioned like the QA process or the code review process or the release process, that lands for sure. But for the teams that have solved through those, I wonder, is there also this deeper story happening where they're shipping more code, actually releasing to production, they have all the QA harnesses, but what they're building and releasing isn't driving the business forward.
Yes.
And so then what's the issue there? That's not an engineering problem. That's a product to market alignment issue.
Right, and also a skill mismatch. And to what you mentioned, why can't I find a lot of these people? Because in order for you to build a problem and solve a problem, you need to have a really good product mindset. And you need to understand, what do I build? And how do I harness these tokens to the max effectiveness that generates that revenue? And a lot of engineers out there don't have this mindset. They're just waiting to get a requirement from their product owner and just build without
Totally.
asking why, right?
Right.
This notion of asking why am I building this and how this is going to impact is missing. And we need more of these people. And this goes back to softer skills and why I said 50% softer skills. Because having that mindset, understanding the business, understanding the product, understanding the users, this is very rare in engineers that is currently in the market. So either up-level ourselves and build that softer skills required, learn about how our business is making money and how do we do finances and how do we do revenue counting, where is my area, how my area is related to generating revenue. And this is an interview question you will ask whoever you're interviewing. You'll ask them how the area and the role that I'm in impacting company revenue. If they can answer you that question, that's a great role to go in. If they cannot, there is no direction in that role. And that's where we see a lot of folks that struggling because that skill set is not yet there. We are used to just building, delivering, and we are off the hook when we deliver something out there.
On the soft skills side, so obviously technical rigor, that I think is mapped, but on the soft skills side, what sort of skills are you encouraging them to develop? Is it, obviously there's how is this driving business revenue forward? That lands, that makes a lot of sense. What sort of team dynamic skills are you really focused on that you want to see out of these candidates?
Yeah, I really like how Ryan Ranluski, the ex-CEO of LinkedIn, put this together. I think it was a couple of months ago on LinkedIn. In 4 C's, starts with courage, because we do need courage in this age to get out of our way and be proactive and follow through, and that requires a lot of courage to do so and get out of your comfort zone. Curiosity, really understanding why am I doing this, really going and learning your area, learning the business, learning the outcomes, learning your customers, and finding more problems. You need to be very curious. Communication, which is the key skill right now. Are you able to, AI is complicated, and now you're going to work with executives who are interested in your projects. Are you able to simply communicate what you're building and how it's going to impact customers? Are you able to drive a lot of discussions through, cross-functional partners? We do see projects are getting bigger and bigger, and you need to navigate a lot of discussions through. If you have ideas with AI, can you navigate them through, production and delivery into the hand of customers? Communication is a key skill. And lastly, we still need our human side, and that's compassion. Like, how are we compassionate with our users, really understanding in an age that is a little ruthless, right? With AI, everything is getting ruthless. And that care and compassion within the team, it can really, really help, that give people that cushion for understanding each other and understanding their roles better.
It's interesting. So that's a lot to evaluate. And I'm wondering, do you guys actually, in the interview process, are you asking questions to kind of grade the candidates on that, on those dimensions? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I look for nowadays, and what I see my colleagues in different companies look for is in the interview process is 50% oriented across those skill sets. And really probing the engineer. You see even the verification process getting a lot more lengthier, where companies are calling your managers, calling your past peers, asking about you and your work. I see Stripe is going through that long deal of those verification with candidates that coming in. So the culture fit and those skill fit is now way more important. I do pay less attention to their technical skills. So if 2 candidates are technically really good, I definitely go with the one that has better communication and, softer skills than the other one.
For sure. Yeah, we've become way more oriented to what does the conversation feel like when we're with the candidate? What's their level of energy? How dynamic are they?
Yeah.
Are they gonna bring a level of enthusiasm and perspective to the product that we're building that's differentiated and positive? So that really resonates. I'm also wondering, so one of the things that I've observed is sometimes when I do agentic coaching with my team. We have like 200 people at the company, and so it's a lot of people to do one-on-ones with. I can't possibly do all of that. That would be all I do. And so I have to kind of set up little challenges with the team to kind of get them to take a stab at something, right? And right now it's around AI adoption, AI wins. And we'll do programmatic coaching with them where they basically share what they're working on with their team, their department on the AI side, how they're adopting it, and just kind of put that out there. And then that gives me the source context to use AI to like analyze what they're doing on their team with AI and give them coaching, give them feedback, give them mentorship about how to approach that problem in a more evolved, more sophisticated way. And that has been actually really, really effective. And sometimes I noticed in that process, it felt like Claude going back and forth with Claude, right? Like messages that they're pasting, and I can very clearly tell this is written by Claude. And sometimes the same sentence structure and versions, you just see the message after message after message.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm just in the terminal having a conversation with the bot. And then I think of like, these personality frameworks for teams, like the DISC assessment, and the idea that teams are strongest when they have different types of personalities
Right.
that combine and come together. But if that personality has been replaced with just Claude, 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 Claude,
Yes.
we no longer, it's a one-dimensional team.
Right.
And so in the age of AI adoption, for the teams that are adopting it, there's also, I think, an excess of adoption where there is no human anymore. And it's just, I'm just going to ask Claude to tell me what to do or how to respond to my manager, and I'm just going to send it, right? Where do you stand on that? And have you seen what I'm describing?
Absolutely. And, I'm fascinated with what you built as well. It's very cool. Let me take a step back, right? We do see a role of leaders has changing now in the age of AI, as you are a leader and you have a lot of people on your team where you nurture and develop. And, part of it can be done with AI, right? AI can connect the dots for you. It can find their performance outputs and, put it together. In old days, we spent a lot of time putting, performance review documents for every engineer. I remember myself spending 2-3 hours per engineer on the team just to get their reviews every quarter done. And now I'm very more productive because I can use AI skills that I have to actually generate those data. And because AI has access, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But the point that you brought up, AI can't be the evaluator. And we still need human in the loop because AI don't understand our compassion level, the skill sets. There is no compassion defined in AI. And how AI understands personality and team dynamics. And AI is not there to view people actually with our sensory. Our sensory is very different. AI sensory is based on bits, 0, 1. Our sensory is so much different than what AI is today. And we can't give everything to AI to evaluate. A lot of people say, engineering managers will be replaced. I agree that we need way less of them maybe in the future because every engineering manager now is empowered to have more people on the team. With the power of AI, I'm more productive and have more time to do other strategic things, where AI is handling this mundane type of task that I had to do all the time. But still, I needed to bring in that human perspective, as you said, personality. And how do I grow someone in regard to their personality, in regard to who they are and what their strengths are? And that is come from humans. It comes from us. And I don't think AI can do people development at this stage at all.
It's so interesting. I was trying to analyze the personality graph of our company, the teams, and basically take all the messages that the team is sharing in Slack, which are visible, and see if I could try to analyze and figure out who's a quick start, who's a systems builder, more long-term thinker, who's someone that is, there's a variety of different personality frameworks. And I tried to graph the company. And what was very interesting is that the graph looked different pre-AI adoption to post-AI adoption. It just, all the dots kind of converged more because the sentence structures, the tonality, it all became very just averaged.
Is everyone becoming AI personality now?
Yeah, exactly.
You see it normalized.
It's normalized because it's now the filter. It's the token filter
Exactly.
that is like re-articulating the way, instead of you communicating the way that you and I normally would,
Right.
there's this like conduit in the middle that's just making everything just applesauce, like averaged out.
Right.
And I think it's like flattening that personality graph in a very negative way.
Right. And then it's view, right? AI can, as we mentioned, it's one-dimensional, right? Even with knowledge graphs, it can connect so many dots across like various systems of thinking and things that happen in day-to-day of life. Unless we, on our brain, became the knowledge graph, unless unless that happens, I don't think we will be in a world that we can just solely rely on AI. And as you can clearly see, everything normalizes because, well, there is only one dimension that things are happening, and it's missing that human interaction level and human thinking level with compassion and understanding. And personality is not just definition on a paper. It goes way more to it, and it's changing and it's dynamic. So sometimes, your personality can evolve. And that's the things that AI cannot see and really address. So I would be hesitant to, take my human judgment out nowadays using AI. I'll use AI a lot, but I still, bring my judgment in. And you mentioned judgment as a keyword, and I think that's a keyword I want everyone to take out from our conversation today. One of the most important skills is judgment. And how do you make the right judgment is critical thinking. And can you actually, a lot of people even don't know what is critical thinking. And in interviews, this is one of the questions I ask people.
How would you define critical thinking?
What is critical thinking?
Yeah.
It's like, can you define a problem, understand the problem, look at the problem from different perspectives, negate the problem, find the edge cases, negate your beliefs throughout the problem, and then come up with the conclusion. Don't take any assumption. And that's what we see with AI is actually doesn't have that critical thinking, right? It can, with confidence, give you the wrong answer. And if you are not, having that knowledge, you will be like, this is 100% true with all these proofs that you provide me.
Yeah.
And, one of the trick people doing is you just like, they tell it, negate yourself. Like, try to
disprove your
hypothesis. And sometimes you see it does. And you are in a world of like, which one do I accept now? Is it true or is it false? So that critical thinking built in us is the judgment call that engineers need every day to look at a code review and say, yes, this is right. This is the right solution for this system. Or no, this is absolutely wrong.
But what I'm wondering is, so I like that part of critical thinking and kind of retesting hypothesis. There's ways to kind of use multiple LLMs as a judge and try to pressure test things. But still, I agree that there's still a human, because obviously anything that your AI tells you to do, ultimately you're the one that's doing it. You're the one who's putting your name on it and saying, I exercise my judgment and decision making to make this choice.
Right.
You can't say, hey, Codex did it. It's Codex's fault. No, it's your fault. You used the tool to do that, and you accepted the outcome. Right. But I'm wondering, in that context engineering layer, do you think it's important for us to, like, your Claude code and my Claude code, if we both get a new computer and we start it up, it'll be the exact same. Right? There's no difference. It's just plain vanilla. But I wonder, do you think it's important for us to bring our personality into the machine, into the robot, and say, wait a second, you're not just Claude code. You're my avatar. You're the Naz avatar. You're the Manick avatar.
Yeah.
This is my personality. This is how I like to communicate. This is who I am. This is my orientation. Do you think that's important to bring the personality into the code context?
I do that, right? I do that all the time, especially when I write with it, because I want my writing to be my writing, not AI writing. And you can do that to some extent. You can bring in your constant personality in. But the thing is, the human level personality is not static.
Yeah.
It changes all the time. And, you have ideas and, things happens in your life that changes you on a daily basis. Then how do you update that? I think that's a part I'm struggling with. The way I used to write last year is different the way I'm writing this year. The notions in my mind and guardrails has been changed. As I age, even perspective change, right? How do you make the constant updating knowledge graph of memory and personalization for AI?
Yeah.
And maybe we needed to get connected to who we are and way more of interactions, and then we are maybe in a world of full AI, like take over, and that's dangerous a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be around for that age. I don't know how fast that's going to come over. But it would be very interesting to see. if one day AI would be connected basically to everything you see and you feel and you experience, not only the things that you think.
Interesting. I think I would imagine it would have a hard time. It could bring in all the sensory tokens,
Right.
and it could have its own perspective on what it felt,
Right.
but it doesn't know how I felt
Exactly.
unless it's listening to my tokens and I'm articulating how I feel, and I'm
Right.
like an emotional, I'm just venting exactly. Oh, I feel happy about this. I feel sad about it. Most
Right.
people don't do that, so I think it would have a hard time tracking me. But I think actually the most real thing on my computer or on your computer is it's what comes out of our mouth, because that's not AI, at least not until Neuralink. Like, we're just communicating how we feel or what we think
Right.
in our own words, in our own language. And
Right.
that, I think, is probably the closest graph of our personality
Yeah.
and our how we're feeling or what we're thinking, and versus what we're sending to our teams or sending via email or the artifacts we're building on our computers.
Right.
And so somewhere in there, I think, is the personality.
Yeah. And a lot of work has been happening in the layer of like agentic memory and personalization, where you could, save a lot of these things. If you now go to your ChatGPT and open what it saved through its memory, you can see it in your settings. It probably wrote some stuff about you and your preferences over time that you chat with it. So it is happening right now at some extent, but only when you chat with AI. And it depends on what you say. If you mostly chat with AI through how you feel throughout your workday, and you never chat with it after work, so it can just get your work personality in, and
Right.
it only have access to what you're telling AI. And we are not talking to AI all the time. Like we have a lot of thoughts in our head, which is not going through AI in a lot of circumstances. So it's missing. It's missing a lot of context. And in my perspective is, I still need that human level guardrails. And you see a lot of companies when we get back to tech, like Databricks, they halt 6 months of development to put together human-curated data sets for evaluations of their agents. 6 months of work is a lot of revenue missing, but it's so important for them to make sure that guardrails is in place by people who actually know what's wrong and what's right. And that's not the AI who determining that. And we can validate what AI is determining and optimize it toward that actual human level guardrail and inputs. And you see this work across the tech. All the companies, they're not just relying on AI to evaluate and optimize AI. It's a constant input from human beings who's actually getting direction to those evaluations that's happening.
Totally. I've seen it myself, like the first generation of the evals with some, you give it some context, but the first generation is so deficient.
Right.
And if you just trust that, you'll end up in a potentially very bad place.
Right.
Sometimes it does okay, but any decisions of great consequence, you can't make them that
Right.
way. And I think that's one of the harder things now to coach with people is how much to trust what it's telling you, and how much to trust how much it's telling you. Because sometimes actually, like we need to feel confident about what we're getting from it.
Yeah.
But not overconfident. And that's also where the judgment comes in. And it's hard to
Exactly.
train and teach that.
And the data, right? Putting the data for AI to consume. I think tech field is the field, the software engineering field is the field has the most data ready to consume. That's why AI can code right now, because it's out there. The data is there and you can train. But if you go to any other field, let's say mechanical engineering, and go to these big companies, everything is inside the head of people. And there is no, like if you look at their design docs and why some folks design this way, you have to go through loops of 10 people to figure out why. Right. And it's hard for AI to penetrate those fields. And that's why we are the first field who's got penetrated, and coding is the first skill that is really good at. So how are you going to write your documents in a way that AI can now consume, not humans? In old days, we say write the code in a way human understands, not computers. It was I think the head title of so many books regarding best practices.
Yeah.
We write code for humans. But who do we write code today for? No longer humans. We don't even write the specs for humans nowadays. We write it for AI.
Yeah.
And how do we, as you mentioned, gather this context, knowledge, feeling, everything that can be useful for AI to consume. Whoever cracked that code, and I think AI is now a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry opportunity. There's so many things to solve. Whoever cracked that code, it would be an amazing opportunity and next rising star in these companies.
The model overhang concept from Anthropic is so it's so powerful. The models can do more at the application layer than we even know they can. And beyond tech, that expands into biology and medicine and physics and all kinds of discovery. One of my favorite news clippings was a 18-year-old kid used it to analyze a bunch of old data on astronomy and found a bunch of new planets and stars in data sets. And that was really inspiring. I think really cool to see, insight coming from these old data sets that have just been discarded and left behind because no one had time to go back through them and study them.
Right.
And without a doubt, I think the next few years, there'll be many defining breakthroughs in biology and physics and mathematics. There's certainly more there than we found.
Absolutely.
But I'm also wondering, as I sit down with some of my friends who are a bit, I would say, very concerned about how this all plays out. Beyond the future of work, the future of society, how will the chapters that we're sort of writing now play out in terms of power and the concentration of it or the democratization of it? I'm curious if you have an opinion on that.
I think about this a lot. I don't think any of us have a certain answer, but I can tell you what I imagine the future to be. I actually have a very positive mindset of how the future can turn out. If you can think, if one day we do not need to work 9 to 5 anymore, where you have agents that does your work, and you can focus on things that you love to do in life, and it's way easier to ideate and build, and it's going to be a lot of innovation happening across the world, and with that, we're going to have a lot of advancements. I can see a world when we can, crack the code in so many, diseases and problems that we still have as humanity. And AI can come to our help to crack that code. We do need definitely a stronger power. We don't generate enough power right now to come to that future. There are talks from Google where they want to take all these data centers to space, space data centers. I know SpaceX is start thinking about it. Yeah. But even going further, does binary really work for what we need? Do we need to move to quantum? And I do see quantum computing as next wave that's coming in, and it's going to disorient what we experience with AI, what we experience with the birth of internet. Quantum computing will be next. We need way more power to be able to crack the code to so many human problems we have. And 0, 1, and 2-dimensional space is not enough for AI to operate in.
I was just thinking as you were saying that, the gap to quantum and getting there is such a multi-order of magnitude increase in compute power that, to imagine latency going down by multiple orders of magnitude, multi-turn reasoning happening 1,000 times faster, conclusions being drawn, data being aggregated, analyzed, where we're looking at what I did in my day, let's say largely compute-driven, being able to be done in a couple of minutes, is insane the rate at which self-evolution, self-progress will happen.
Right.
And already the rate at which it's happening is astonishing.
Right.
And so, you're seeing news of companies, big companies like Nike, Adidas, a lot of tech companies, Meta, laying off 10%, 20%, 30% of their workforce. And that's not just like that's it for the year. That's just this wave.
start, right.
And then there'll be another wave and another wave. And then 2027, probably we'll see even more organizations that were a little bit behind the curve on making those changes. They will follow suit and they will start to do that. And it will probably take place over the next couple of years. And so, when all is said and done, if every company in the United States let go of 30% of their workforce, we're looking at like massive unemployment,
Right.
which is like deeply like concerning because there's a lot of families impacted by that, a lot of good people impacted by that, and like kind of left behind. And who's to say that 30% could be higher, right, with like humanoid robot advancements. And so like thinking about that future, which feels rather grim, and also balancing like the techno-optimist in me that shares a lot of the optimism that you expressed around medicine and these other things. I'm having trouble balancing both of these two things at the same time.
Yeah. And, yes, in factual reality, there are a lot of layoffs happening, and partially what I see in a lot of it is because of those skills needed has shifted. And these companies, a lot of them, you see they're doing layoffs and they're hiring at the same time. And you're saying, oh my God, if you really impacted like financially, why are you hiring? The reason is not that they're impacted and they want to like tie up their finances. The reason is they want to shift the skills. And there are a lot of people still in these companies that they don't have that 50% soft skills required today to drive, and they're struggling. So you can see those people are moving away, and new people coming in to drive this with this rate of change and speed that's happening in these big, large tech companies. But on the other side, I coach people, and I work with a lot of folks who are looking for jobs. And I had a couple of people who lost their jobs, who came to me, I'm looking for my next job. And within the coaching program, we have built projects together. And that project turned into a little startup. Some of it sold over millions of dollars. And some of them actually built their own businesses around AI. So we need to think differently. There's a ton of opportunities out there in the market, and you don't need to be employed in a company to be able to work. So for folks who are getting out there and, getting through layoffs, it's an opportunity. And find those opportunities. My perspective is if you have the skills, if you're curious and you built your expertise and have the skills, you will never be out of work. You can always create work. And the way of creation of work, it will change over our lifetime, right? We may be hired in these companies. One day we get laid off. We may go open our own businesses. But can you navigate that? People can navigate that and actually up-level themselves. Some people can't. And that's a reality of the world, right? If everyone was super successful and everyone could navigate everything, then, there would be no differences. We will reach what you reach with your AI agent. With everyone is in the same personality. You need some sort of personality and courage to be able to shift yourself to something brand new. So if you get laid off, or people who've been listening to us and been dealing with that, it's think about the opportunities now with AI. I see people build ideas that have been sold in high numbers and had impact. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to start thinking what you really, really want to do. Are you a good fit right now in this new wave in these companies? Because that's something you really need to deeply think about, and some people do not. I do have people who cannot work in ever-changing, ever-rapid environments. They were dealing with depressions because of that. And their personality is just not fit for here anymore. So maybe it's not the right thing to continue living on anymore, and I need to pick something that can generate money. I have the skills to do so, and I'm passionate about it. It might be something else. And I give people this ikigai concept. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I love it.
Just do this exercise and see if you're a right fit. If you're not, then find your passion, something that a passion can generate income for you, and, you're good at it.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think that's a great point. You don't have to go work somewhere.
Right.
And it's a choice that you're making. And actually, I think I think there's a lot of people who have been insanely successful who have found that path.
Right.
And for them, I'm curious your best startup advice for someone who is looking to build something new. What do you tell them?
I would say find a problem that is your problem, that you're familiar with that problem, you're dealing with it day to day, you have knowledge around your problem, and go solve it. And then find a group of people who have your problem as well, and take your solution to them. And then build up. And usually that's what I see people get successful, that they go find these type of problems that they have a lot of familiarity with, and they have their personalized story behind it. That would be the way that I will do it, and I advise other people to do it as well.
Yeah. I would also offer sometimes not every problem needs a technological solution. Like you don't have to build software.
Mm-hmm.
You can also build people.
Right?
And like you do, right?
Right.
There's a tremendous amount of people that need community, and they need to be re-educated and learn and feel like they're a part of something bigger. And it doesn't have to always be just about software and code. It can also just be about the human side.
Exactly. I had people who built a hot sauce company after getting laid off.
I love hot sauce.
And it became very successful, and they
Nice.
did not need a job anymore, and they didn't want to get back to tech anyway. I had people who built their AI consultancy companies where they go just advise people, and it's been working very well for them. I had people who opened supplement brands and went to, other passions they had around, genetic problems and diabetes, and they built devices that can, monitor your blood sugar, and they became super successful, and they stopped being a software engineer for lifetime. And, that's what we talk about multi-dimension knowledge, right? Where, if you build that knowledge as an engineer, now you have that, and now you're entering a different field, backing up yourself with that great knowledge you had built over past 10 years, 15 years, and now you go solve a different problem. And you're powerful because you have multi-discipline knowledge in you. You can solve that problem way more efficient than someone else with one discipline in that field.
Totally. Great point. Well, Naz, really super appreciate you being here
Thank
and sharing this with us. Where can people find you? What's the best way for them to find you online?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. You can find me on LinkedIn, Naz Delam. And shoot me a message. I'd love to connect with people.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.